hello. Um, when I first heard the topic emoji, I'm like, oh, how complicated could that possibly be? And all of a sudden, we're going back like millennia, and we're talking about nonverbal, symbolic communication, um, social constructions of community, meaning making, religion, and it's just like, whoa. Okay, so I'm here to guide you into like what does this mean today, but just so you know that there's a huge backlog of information, and in fact, it probably goes back over 100,000 years, as people would etch things into rocks to show like wayfinding or symbolism or even like pictographs. It goes back quite a ways. If you just type in emoji in Google, for example, let me move my head out of the way. This is what made me freak out: is the Wikipedia. Oh, why can't I zoom in? There we go. So an emoji actually is a pictogram or a logogram or an ideogram, gram being message, or or smiley embedded in text. That's like the least descriptive. So there's like all this stuff going on, but a big one right here is emotional cues. I think we can save that one. The other ones we might get swept away by the ages. So I'm starting to take notes. Let me make this big so you can see it on the YouTube video. So I'm just trying to write down keywords like what does it mean? And I would say you could narrow it down to a particular medium. So like, I don't know if people use these on Canvas, but phones obviously or text. But maybe people do it in emails now. And then there's like splitting hairs between emoticon and emoji and things like that. But they all kind of have that basic idea. Let me throw these in here just for fun, in case we want to expand. And I'll do or pictogram, logogram, ideogram. A lot of in human psychology. Oh, this actually gives me a good idea. In human psychology, we have our amygdala that allows us to think really quickly. It's sometimes called automatic thinking, where we have values and everything's already assigned, so we know how to make decisions really quickly. And sometimes we share those as a group. So like smiling or a certain hand gesture or anything. So like my daughter goes like this to me in jest. And that's like part of that community of understanding. We're being sarcastic with each other. Knowing that, you could pick any number of different directions. Here's how I would do it. Emoji. From the library catalog, you could do a general search. And already there's even more. It's good to have like something to drink. I have a seltzer with me. It's good to have something to drink at the outset. So there's like storytelling, semiotics, and I had to look that up. I was like, what's that? The study of signs and symbols and their use or interpretation. So now we have another word. So pictogram, logogram, those are the things. Semiotics are the study of those things. And on further, we could get carried away. But here's how you can wend your way and find the stuff that you're interested in. Because when you're doing a paper, expediency, you want to get it over with quick. So there's ways to narrow down. So even though emoji is a new word, it's been talked about for a while. And I found out there was stuff from probably from the 2006 and 7 when smartphones started coming on. People started using those. Or maybe they did an email before, like with social media, like MySpace and predecessors of the same. Out of those 5,000 articles, I'm going to move my head again. Out of those 5,000 articles, we can look, you can narrow those down. I think somebody translated Moby Dick into the emoji style, which is hilarious. I'm not sure. But if there's 28 versions of it, it must be good. Oh, it goes back to 2001. So the first thing you can do in a paper is set historical precedents. That's one thing that you can easily do just by sorting right here by date oldest. So that's the low-hanging fruit is like the precedents. But if you want to look at topics and who's talking about it and how they're talking about it, oh, here's one. Emoticons, Calmoji, emoji, the transformation of communication in the digital age. That one's from just 3 years ago. That one might be a good place to go. Excuse me, please. So if you go under subject, see this 361, 347. Out of the 5,000 articles that we have listed here, these are the keywords that authors or editors have supplied. So we can look at these in order and kind of do a lit review on the fly. Literature review, I should say. So we know that it's a big part of social networks. We know that the social sciences are big into analyzing it, which is obvious because it's like emotion. I don't know what this is. There's communication. You might want to narrow down just to specifically like that. There's computer science. Who knows? Emotional icons. Maybe people tried to expand on the emoji acronym. You get the idea. Ooh, linguistics of language. Text messaging, language methods, intellectual property, sentiment analysis. There's like all this great stuff. Your job is probably to pick the ones that resonate the most with you and come to the point as quick as you can. Ooh, symbolism and communication. So you can see I'm leaning more towards the like, what does this mean as a form of writing, like you were speaking about. This is symbolism, visual communication, interpersonal communication, etc., etc. And then we get down to the point where it's like there's only one thing. So let's apply the filters. You could also use that as ideas to write down in the keywords that you're writing down, or that I was writing down. So these are a good place to go. I would encourage you, cruise through really quickly and casually. Don't try and engage with these, but just go through and you're like, oh yeah, transformation of communication in our current era. That looks good. Social influencing, not as interested in that. Just kind of go through these and save the ones, or open up the ones and save them in tabs for the ones that you're interested in. Because if you're writing a paper, if it's like rhetoric and you're taking a position, this might allow you to build up pro and con cases and things like that. What do we do after we found stuff in the library catalog? Oh, by the way, assessing personality using emoji. That's not about emojis. It's about an intervention attempting to use that idea for a particular issue. Maybe it's like communication. Maybe it's marriage counseling. Who knows? Assessing personality. That's cool. At any rate, from the library homepage, we can go to databases. There's some good ones that I would recommend. But for this one, since we're looking in particular at writing and rhetoric and also communication, I'm going to give you my two favorites. Oh, I'll give you three favorites for that. Under databases by title, probably the big one that people use for rhetoric and humanities and analyzing texts and talking about things like that is Modern Language Association, the MLA. So that would go under M. And it's probably a long list, so I'm just going to cheat to do Modern Language. There we go. Modern Language Association International Bibliography. This one's great because these are people, rhetoricians, writers, faculty members, grant writers. Everyone's looking at how language affects things. I suppose there's linguistics in here, but I always think of this as like a humanities in general. And at this one, go to the advanced search and we can start throwing in keywords. So this is where you can start to, I'm going to move my head yet again. This is where you can start to narrow down. So we know a lot of what's going on already and we've moved on to the next stage. And we can just do, I can misspell it, emoji. And here there's other things that'll be suggested like social information Nothing too drastic. But did you see that there's emoji or emojis? If you do a star after emoji, it'll catch that. So this means emoji or emojis. And let's do a context of texting and language. I don't know if we have to put that in there, but every time you add a keyword out of the thousands and thousands of articles, it'll narrow it down just a little bit more, and you can keep on adding them. I'll do language, meaning making, I don't know. Oh yes. Or sense making. So if it's more than a single word, put it in quotes. What else? What are my keywords that I wrote down? Oh, writing. Writing. Oh, and we also want emotion. So I'll do language or emotion or communication. So you see how we're going along here? And I'm going to get rid of texting. Now I just want to find everything that's with meaning making, sense making, or writing. Oh, or rhetoric. Every time I add an or, so every time you add one that's in between an and, do you see where there's and or not? It narrows it down. Every time you add an or, it expands. Let's see what happens. My fingers are crossed. No results. So let's get rid of meaning making and sense making and just stick to language or emotion or communication. I'm kind of mixing up concepts there. Meaning making and sense making get a little esoteric. Hey, there we go. Interjections in emoji in Nigerian. So they typically study a particular population. So it might be an age group like teens or seniors, or it might be a group of people in a particular country. Ooh, there's perception, nonverbal communication. So again, if you have like a set of search results, you can go to the subject and you can see everything that's gone along. And you can see what in particular are you interested in. You could narrow it down to bullying or hate speech, cross-cultural communication, or interpersonal. I like the cross-cultural one because then it's like if you're visiting another country where you're speaking a different language than the people of the country, you could communicate with emojis. That's kind of fun. There's particular political movements. So you get the idea. This is just to get you started, but let me know how it goes. Oh, I was going to show you another database. Okay, but let me know how it goes. The other database that I would recommend is under C, Communication and Mass Media Complete. So we have Modern Language Association, Communication and Mass Media Complete, and start with those two and see how it goes. And then let me know how it goes. You might have to narrow it down a little bit, but that should give you like more than enough stuff to cite and start to build your narrative that you're going to put in your paper.